Hearts of Iron 4 is set during World War II, and you play the role of a leader of any nation, and you are tasked with guiding your country through the challenges of the war. The game will focus heavily on strategic military planning, resource management, and diplomacy. The game truly stands out with its deep strategic elements and historical accuracy. One of the coolest aspects is the ability to alter history by making different choices, which can lead to alternative outcomes of the World War II. And this will make every playthrough quite unique and very interesting. Now for the main gameplay, it is quite deep and complex, and it's all centered around strategic decision making and resource management. The main goal is to guide your chosen nation through World War II, and you'll have to make decisions that will affect the outcome of the war. And if you're a fan of strategy or history, this offers a really detailed and immersive experience. The game will start with you choosing a country to lead. Every country has its own strengths and weaknesses, and you'll need to manage their military, economy, and diplomacy. For example, if you chose Germany, you would focus on building a powerful military machine, while if you're playing as the United States, it might involve more economic management and diplomacy. But no matter the country you choose, at the early stages, you'll focus on building up your nation's infrastructure and military. This will involve researching new technologies, building factories and military units, and then managing resources like oil, steel, and manpower. And as you progress, the game will become more complex. For example, you might need to manage your supply line for your troops that could be in very distant regions, or you might have to decide how to allocate very limited resources. One of the most important gameplay mechanics is the focus tree, and this represents a series of national decisions and paths you can take. Every country will have their own unique focus tree that will guide you through your own strategic goals. Germany's focus tree might include paths for preparing for war, forming alliances, and conquering territories, while the Soviet Union's focus tree might involve industrialization. Another key element is the combat. You'll control divisions, which are a group of soldiers, tanks, and other units, and you'll then battle out in real time on the game's map, where high levels of tactics and strategic planning will decide everything. For example, you could try and launch a surprise attack on an enemy supply line, which can cripple their ability to fight back, which will then allow you to capture key territories. The game's replayability is one of the strongest points. Every playthrough can be entirely different depending on the country you choose and the decisions you make. The dynamic nature of the game, where even minor choices can have significant impact, ensures that no two games are ever the same, which takes us into the next point, the progression. The game's progression is designed to take you through different phases of the war, and every phase will present unique challenges and opportunities. In the early game, you'll focus on building infrastructure, like setting up factories to produce weapons, vehicles, and supplies. But as you move into the mid-game, the focus will shift more for preparing for warfare, and this is when your decisions will start to play out on the battlefield. You'll have to deploy your troops, manage supply lines, and execute tactical maneuvers. And then by the end game, the stakes are higher, and your decisions can lead to the ultimate victory or defeat for your nation. And this endgame phase will also include managing large-scale conflicts, dealing with resource management, and making critical decisions, where each of those can turn the tide of the war. One of the most unique and interesting features of the game is a deep and flexible national focus system, which allows you to guide your country through a series of historical or alternative historical paths. And this is done by choosing different national focuses, where every focus will represent a significant policy or decision that can affect your nation. This could be economy, military, and diplomatic relationships. For example, if you were playing as Germany, you could choose a focus path that follow historical events. This could be rearming the military or forging alliances with Italy and Japan. Alternatively, you could try a different path and then try to form alliances with countries like the United Kingdom or even the Soviet Union, which will lead to entirely different outcomes in the game. And this system really impacts the game by providing a structured yet flexible way to shape your country's destiny. It also allows for a ton of replayability, as every playthrough can be vastly different depending on the choices you make. And this feature really makes the game stand out from other strategy games, because it will combine historical accuracy but also with the freedom to explore what-if scenarios. And it adds a new layer of depth and complexity that will challenge you to think strategically about long-term goals, while also adapting to the changing dynamics of the world. And it gives the game a more sandbox feeling, where you can explore and try new things. Which takes us into the next point, the difficulty and trial and error approach. Now this game is known for quite challenging gameplay, and it will be quite overwhelming for new players. The game will not hold your hand, and it won't give you a step-by-step guide. Instead, you are thrown into the deep end, and you must then learn through trial and error. And this is not only hard for new players, but even more experienced players will also mismanage their resources or fail to maintain diplomatic relationships, which will lead to unexpected wars or economic crisis. But I would definitely say that the game definitely caters more to hardcore strategy gamers who enjoy complex decision making and detailed management. But the sandbox nature of the game will allow you to set your own goals and experiment with different strategies without the pressure of following a linear storyline. Moreover, for the casual player, the steep learning curve will be quite discouraging, But if you enjoy deep strategy games, it is a very rewarding experience as you will gradually master very complex systems. And that brings me to the next point, the graphics, sound and atmosphere. The game has really detailed and realistic graphics that brings the World War II era to life. The game map is also beautifully designed, showing various terrains and weather conditions that will also affect the gameplay. Furthermore, the units and buildings are also well detailed, making it quite easy to distinguish between different countries and military divisions. But the game would be nowhere without the sound and music, and they are essential to creating a really immersive atmosphere. The game music will change with the in-game events. It'll get intense during battles and get more peaceful during quiet times. And overall, this combination of the detailed graphics, the compelling sound effects, and a great soundtrack really helps immerse you into the historical context of the game. And I would say this immersion is one of the reasons why the game is so popular. Now let's look at some pros and cons. The first pro is the very deep strategic gameplay. The gameplay is very detailed, where strategy and planning is mandatory. You'll control everything from military movements to diplomatic decisions. The second pro is the historical accuracy. The game is rich with historical details and can actually teach you a lot about World War II in case you didn't know it already. But this aspect also makes it really fascinating if you're a history buff. The next pro is the immersive atmosphere. The combination of the detailed graphics, the sound effects, and the music really creates a highly immersive atmosphere that pulls you right into wartime settings. And it really makes you want to fight for the nation you build. And the final pro is the replayability. With the sheer amount of countries to choose from and the different outcomes that are based on your choices, this game has some of the highest replayability ever seen, where every playthrough, even as the same nation, will be quite unique and can provide you with hundreds if not thousands of hours of great entertainment. Now for the cons, and these are very important. The first con is the steep learning curve. The game will be quite complex, especially for beginners, and it will require a lot of time to learn all the mechanics and systems, which can be quite overwhelming to be honest. The next con is how time consuming it is, and this is due to the depth and detail. Each game session can be very long, and you might need to invest significant time to see your strategies unfold. It is not just a game that you boot up for 30 minutes one time a week, as that will lead you nowhere. But with all that said, let's grade the game. And Hearts of Iron 4 gets an 8 out of 10. The game is very deep and offers a ton of strategic complexity, which are also its strongest points, and it's definitely one of the top choices if you love strategy games. Furthermore, the historical accuracy and the immersive atmosphere really add to the experience and allows you to feel like you're truly part of World War II. Then you have the replayability, another significant point, as no two games will ever be exactly the same. However, the game does lose points due to its steep learning curve, which will be quite discouraging for newcomers. Also, the amount of time required to get a full understanding of the game and all the mechanics is substantial, and this can also be seen in the complexity, which can be very overwhelming as well. Additionally, there are a few technical issues and multiplayer instabilities that can affect the overall enjoyment. But in conclusion, Hearts of Iron 4 is a perfect game for you if you enjoy deep strategic gameplay and if you have an interest in World War II. It's also a great educational tool and a lot of fun if you love to dive into complex systems and detailed planning. On the other hand, if you're newer to strategy games, or if you prefer quicker, more straightforward gameplay, this might not be the best fit, as the time investment and the learning required can be very significant. But if you're ready to dedicate a good amount of time to master the game's intricate mechanics, it is well worth the time and money. For more amazing games, click here.